Welcome everyone back to weekly weather updates, and in today's video we're going to have the latest from the live radar, run for the latest UKV, have a look at the precipitation and the temperature over the next 5 days. It has been fairly warm, sunny and dry over the past few days, but that is all changing through this evening and the weekend as we do start to see low pressure pushing in from the south, and we are starting to see some pretty heavy bands of precipitation, and through Saturday afternoon and evening especially we could see some pretty severe thunderstorms across parts of England and Wales. That's cropped up within the model output over the past day or so. So have a look at the Ciaran run as well. Have a look at that in more detail. Perhaps the first kind of thunderstorm period that we've had this year. Again, not too unusual coming as we head into spring. Got a combination of low pressure and some slightly warmer, more humid air, but it could be pretty lively around in places tomorrow. Again, torrential rain, potentially gusty winds, even a bit of hail, and of course lightning as well could be additional hazards. Into next week, it does turn a little bit drier as we do start to see that low pressure pushing away, but we then start to see the Atlantic getting unlocked and the jet stream slowly shifting southwards, so it turns cooler and more unsettled as we progress later on into March. And finally, if we have a look at the longer range charts, we'll be able to see the latest GFS, GM and ECMWF all have this more westerly flow starting to break out for the final period of March and early April. Again, at the moment, still uncertain exactly how cool it will be, all dependent on the sort of southern extent of the jet stream. But at the moment, we're more likely to be average or below average in terms of temperature with moderate amounts of precipitation. Not looking like we're going to get a barrage of severe lows, but definitely going to get our fair share of lower pressure systems. So yeah, don't expect it to be bone dry at all as we do progress into the final 10 days or so of March. So do remember, if you enjoy my videos, make sure you like and subscribe. And remember to follow me on Twitter as well, the link's in the description. Now if you start on the live radar, you can already see low pressure is pushing up from the south at the moment. Nothing too heavy this evening, but some more moderate to lighter rain starting to break out even across England and Wales. Also, it's been a fairly warm and dry day once again. So precipitation starting to push in, and it is starting to turn a little bit worse for wear, and we are seeing thicker cloud and that rain pushing in, and it will bring a tip to those temperatures overnight tonight. Again, won't be too disappointing, but you'll feel it by day tomorrow. Temperatures will be a little bit cooler just simply because of that cloud and rain. But you can see why the risk of thunderstorms is there into tomorrow. We've got quite warm air around. You can see already tonight temperatures still into the low teens. Tomorrow still could be, as I said, warm, but not feeling all too warm. Maybe more around the mid to low teens, but the air mass is still there and going to fuel those heavy bands of precipitation. Now, do have a look at the latest UKV. You can see those bands of rain pushing in tonight. Nothing too heavy or severe through Friday evening. And into Saturday morning, the initial weather front slowly clears northwards. So some rain into the north and the west through Saturday morning. But nothing too much at the moment. England and Wales look like it's been a fairly dry slot there into Saturday morning. Now that doesn't last into the afternoon. We start to see convection taking place around the early afternoon, potentially heavy bands of precipitation starting to take off. Thunderstorms occurring perhaps across the West Midlands and Wales. Again, uncertainty over that exact positioning. We'll look at the Ciaran run in a minute. Perhaps a little bit more extensive precipitation breaking out from the Ciaran than the UKV here. Sometimes the UKV gets the intensity and the overall precipitation area correct, but sometimes does underdo the size of the overall area of rain. So perhaps it's doing that here. We could generally see convection taking place across the spine of the country. That continues through the evening before it slowly clears westwards and eventually slowly dissipates through the evening. But for northern areas, all that convection kind of just turns into another band of moderate to heavy rain. Progressively into Sunday, it's not too bad into the morning. Some thicker clouds still remains, but the precipitation starts to break apart, and eventually low pressure starts to draw away back into the near continent, but still could be a few hefty showers around in the afternoon. As we progress into early next week, you see the wind direction changes. Comes in from the northwest, and we will be seeing unsettled and cooler air moving in, But for the time being, it doesn't look too bad, at least for the early parts of next week. There does look like to be plenty of dry air around, but I don't expect that to last. You can see again a low pressure system arriving there through Wednesday into Thursday. So we will see more unsettled conditions into next week, but with that wind direction shifting to a westerly, southern areas and eastern areas which would get the brunt of some of those thunderstorms and the bands of rain perhaps through Saturday night into Sunday, would see a little bit of a lull there before the rain could arrive once again into the middle of next week. Now, if you look at the upper air temperature, you can see they're pretty warm upper air temperatures at the moment, and that is fueling that precipitation. But that slowly gets nudged away through the weekend, and eventually cooler air does progress through. And that does start to change us into that northwesterly flow, and then we start to see oscillating air masses. Of course, weather fronts between those. The big thing, of course, though, for thunderstorms is the mixed level cape. Again, the energy available within the atmosphere. It's not ridiculous this weekend, but it is slightly higher there as we press through Saturday afternoon. Again, nothing compared to what we can see during summer months, but it does pick up there. You can see across parts of England and Wales for a time being. So again, not expecting anything crazy, but definitely for sort of mid-March, we could see a few hefty storms out there tomorrow afternoon and evening. Now, if you look at the max temperature, you can see it was a pretty warm afternoon, again into the high teens, not quite as great as Thursday. We got up towards 20 degrees. But as we progress into Saturday, still could be mild, still could be 15, 16, 17. But of course, with cloud and rain around, it probably won't feel all too mild. You probably don't want to be hanging around outside if we got those thunderstorms developing. Into Sunday, temperatures are still fairly mild overnight, where the cloud and the rain does sit. And again into Sunday afternoon, 15 or 16 in the south and east, but further northwards, more into single digits as that cooler Atlantic air starts to dig in, and that fully moves in there for Monday. And yeah, much cooler there, 8 to 12 degrees pretty widely. Into Tuesday, similar conditions, again, kind of mid to low teens, kind of average for the time of year. And the same can be said into Wednesday, maybe nudging up a little bit higher, 15, 16 degrees. So it's turning a little bit cooler next week, nothing amazing at this stage. And it is generally more of an unsettled wind direction, but at least early next week, still got a bit of higher pressure and some drier air around. The real focus, though, is through perhaps Saturday afternoon through to Sunday, where the risk of some pretty severe thunderstorms is there. Now, to go over to the latest Rome run, you can see as we progress through this evening, that rain slowly gears northwards, dissipating away in terms of its intensity. And then as we progress through Saturday, a bit of a lull during the morning, but then we see hefty showers and thunderstorms breaking out. See a bit more activity there across the far east, up towards Yorkshire there, East Anglia, and more activity across western parts of Wales. You see that enhanced cape. So that is a real interesting bit to keep a very close eye on. But let's just go back to the 6 o'clock run, for example. So the 6-hour difference between these runs. If we go into Saturday afternoon, you can see a lot more widespread activity there across central England to the north of London there through the evening. So again, we've got a very strong idea on the rough area of the hefty precipitation, of the thunderstorms, the exact intensities, exact timings as well. Still up in the air, but that is classic. It's a classic kind of thunderstorm watch there. We're never going to get it 100% correct. But you can see generally where the risk area is. Central England into West Midlands, Western Wales, and spreading northwards. That's where we expect to see those hefty showers breaking out. So do be aware. Of course, as I said, though, the Cape isn't ridiculously high. So we're not expecting huge, active thunderstorms, severe thunderstorms. But we could see some pretty torrential rain, and there could be a few isolated cells that do get going. So do keep a very close eye out for that. As we head into next week, though, as we'll see from the longer range now, we do see a shift in the wind direction to more of a northwesterly, which should hopefully not produce any thunderstorms. You see the low pressure eventually clears away, and then we see initially a bit of high pressure around as that wind direction shifts to a northwesterly. And then you see the northwesterly does get unlocked. Look at that. Lots of low pressure around. Not getting massive lows hitting us, so shouldn't be too unsettled. With the general northwesterly wind direction, it's not ideal. And you can see it remains unsettled there into the longer term. For eventually a bit of blocking develops to our northeast. And it could turn it a little bit chillier and settled once again. The GM's still not working in West Central, unfortunately. But again, we can look on WX chart. A little bit more advantageous view here, as we'll be able to see the air masses, and you'll be able to see that slightly milder area at the moment colliding with the cooler air through this weekend, producing thunderstorms, slowly clearing. A bit of high pressure around for a time being, but later on next week, northwesterly winds, cooler blasts getting pushed through, and you see that progress all the way there to the end of March. So very good viewing there to see those northwesterly blasts coming in off the North Atlantic, keeping us pretty cool and unsettled there as we progress through the rest of March. And finally, if we compare to the latest ECMWF, again, northwesterly winds starting to push in into early next week, but still high pressure around. That's why it's not too unsettled. But eventually, lows do make more progression. And it's the long term, a bit more high pressure ridging there from the latest ECMWF, and potentially northerly winds trying to set up there right at the extended range. I wouldn't be surprised if that did occur. Do check out yesterday's video where there is a strong chance of blocking from a lot of the longer range, sort of very long range charts, like many weeks ahead charts. Got some very strong blocking into April. So again, I wouldn't be surprised if charts like this did occur, but nonetheless, it would be an interesting chart then to early April, as it would bring the risk of a few wintry showers. And the biggest thing would be overnight frost and generally a cold feel. So keep a close eye on that. But at the moment, still in the longer term. What we've got to sort of get through at the moment, the risk of some heavy showers and storms this weekend. And then turning, again, drier early next week, but progressively cooler and progressively unsettled as we head towards the end of March. And finally, if you look at the latest ensemble, you can see it's mild at the moment, pretty unsettled. Gets a little bit cooler into early next week and then slightly drier for a couple of days. And then precipitation does pick up, upper air temperatures back towards average or below average, and kind of hovers around there into early April. So again, not too much of a signal there into early April. Upper air temperatures not deviating too much from average. Precipitation not too high, but not too low either. So we have no major signal there, kind of in between. Could see a bit of everything there into the longer range. And finally, if we compare to the latest ECMWF, broadly very similar, slowly cooling over the next kind of week or so, turning slightly drier early next week, and their precipitation picking up once again, and the upper air temperatures dropping back down to average or even below average there to end March and start April. Again, no huge signal, no massive precipitation spikes, no huge colder or milder signals. So even though, yes, it is cooler and more unsettled, it's nothing ridiculous if we're being completely honest. So as I said, we'll keep a close eye on those longer term prospects, but I do definitely think that cooler patterns are definitely favoured, given the video yesterday where very strong chance there of more North Atlantic and potentially Scandinavian blocking. So that is a real feature, I suspect, as we progress over the next few weeks. And I suspect that will continue to crop up and develop further within the model output in the coming days. But for the time being, do stay safe over this weekend. Lots of heavy rain around, especially through Saturday. Of course, some thunderstorms as well. Very, very tough conditions in a few isolated spots if you do get caught in one of those downpours. Hopefully they're fairly quick moving. They don't look like they're going to rattle through, but they don't look like some of the stationary storms we can see in the summer. So they still could be potentially disruptive in places. So do keep a close eye out on the radar. And of course, I'll have another video out tomorrow afternoon looking at those as they do occur. So I said, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. And I'll see you again for another video soon.